Welcome back to another episode of Slamtown. Happy New Year to everybody. I hope you all had a great holidays. Of course, I'm Mike Ginn. That is Dan Bakley. Dan, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, getting over the COVID. So,
hey, don't say that word on the air. We won't be able to advertise. Yeah, I do feel bad. You and your whole family have kind of been hit hard by it. So hopefully everybody gets healthier and happier for the new year. Thankfully, I've heard nobody really had it that badly, right?
No.
Okay,
No,
good.
we're all good now.
All right. So thankfully for that, I hope everybody else had a happy holidays at home. Of course, stay safe, stay healthy. It's going like wildfire. This last year, of course, we launched a few different episodes. We had my camera keeps glitching. I apologize. We had a few different episodes, 5, I believe, or 6. I don't know. We keep stacking these numbers up. We've gone over different debate subjects, so you know how this thing works already. This episode, we're going to be looking at AEW versus WWE going into 2022. Kind of a look back as well and a look forward to see what we expect, who's going to come out on top of this war, and what to expect out of the next year. But before we get to that, I do have some great news. If you've been paying attention to Fighters First, we just signed the Dynamite Kid. You heard us talk about the Dynamite Kid effect a few episodes ago. Well, Dynamite Kid is now officially Fighters First. Head over to fightersfirst.shop, shop the collection, go over to our social media. We got it all over the place. Of course, the links are down in the show notes. So Dynamite Kid is now Fighters First. We got a couple designs already out. We're going to be rolling out a bunch more. And for those that ask me, yes, down the road, we will have a British Bulldogs shirt or a couple of them. There are some legal issues to go through with different properties and licensing, but I won't get into that. We have actually worked it out. But we're going to do it as a special release. We're going to give Dynamite Kid his shine, just like we gave British Bulldog his shine. And together, they're both going to shine. And eventually, we're going to get a special release out of that for the British Bulldog fans out there at home. So that is that. Go over to fightersfirst.shop. Of course, this show on the Fighters First Network. Hit like, hit subscribe. Dan's got a little co-star in the back. Probably going to steal his shine.
Yep.
Don't worry. Dan is you're not Cody Rhodes. You're not going to shut him down, or Cody isn't the one shutting him down.
Not yet. Just give me a month.
Okay. You'll give him shine, and then you'll bury him. We'll never see him on the roster. He'll be on Darker Elevation or something like that afterwards. Let's get to the subject today. AEW versus WWE. It's obviously the hot topic in wrestling, Dan. Going back and forth this entire year. Obviously, AEW is now over a couple years old. This year, WWE made more news for their releases, the people they've let go. AEW has made more news for a lot of those people coming over and making big splashes. Of course, some have gone over to Impact. Some have gone over to different promotions. Some are doing their free agency thing. Still don't know what's going to be up with Bray Wyatt / Wyndham Rotunda. He's out making movies right now. There's still a lot of names that could debut. A lot of names that might just say, screw it, I'm done with wrestling. We've seen that in the past as well. Let's start this conversation, though, by kind of looking back. Over the last year, obviously everything's been kind of rocky because of COVID, right? Because we had empty arenas, then they started touring again. COVID kind of spiked again. They're still kind of touring. They're still kind of doing their thing, but international travel is kind of an issue coming up because of COVID and travel and everything like that. But let's look back at this last year a little bit. What were some of your highlights let's start with AEW. What were some of your highlights? What were some of your big moments that made AEW pop this year?
Of course, I think one of the big things would be the storyline between Hangman and Kenny Omega. It was kind of like a 2-year storyline build.
This wasn't your biggest storyline?
It's one of them, but I'm going by like a storyline right now, and it would have to be that storyline because of the fact that it went long. They finally culminated it, and they finally put the belt on Hangman. You also have,
of course, they started the year with the whole Moxley Omega thing for a while.
Yeah, and then you had the debuts, of course, the shirt you were in right there, CM Punk in Chicago and Rampage. That was a huge debut. Everyone kind of knew it was coming, but then it still got a big pop, even with them kind of like...
It was kind of like, we think it's coming. We're not 100% sure, but we think it's coming. And then, of course, they kick off the show absolutely perfect. Yeah. The music hits. Everybody goes berserk.
And then, of course, at All Out, you got to mention the double debut of Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson, and they've been featured
Triple debut
predominantly. Oh yeah,
because Ruby Soho.
Ruby Soho, and they've been used a lot lately the past couple months. The three of them, of course, Ruby Soho is in the finals of the TBS title tournament that's coming up this Wednesday, tomorrow actually.
You can say dates. We're going to release this show tonight. So.
Yeah, tomorrow. And then, of course, Bryan Danielson will be wrestling Hangman Page. And then Adam Cole has brought his
the
band
whole Undisputed Era, except for Roger.
Exactly. So there's been a lot going on. And I feel like with just the one or two shows on AEW, I feel like they haven't really been hit with COVID much like WWE has, which has been something they've gotten lucky with down in on the touring scene.
I also feel like they don't talk about it.
Yeah,
like it's a press release when WWE has people that are out, like Roman and everybody else. Like, it's a big deal. Yeah. When AEW has it happen, the few cases I have seen it, it's so hush hush. They don't put it out there. They just keep the ball rolling. They put different people on TV. They just don't talk about it. They just keep going.
Yeah, and then moving on over to WWE.
Let's finish up with AEW real quick before we hop over to WWE. Because I also agree, the debuts were big. Some of the storylines they had. I'll go another step. We talked about the Forbidden Door, right?
Yes.
AEW opened up the Forbidden Door, brought in some Japanese guys. They had Kenta over for a while. Of course, Michinoku Suzuki had the death matches and everything else with Jon Moxley. The storyline, obviously. One thing I didn't like is when they put Jon Moxley's real life rehab into kind of like a storyline. I don't feel like they needed to put that on TV.
No.
I think they wanted more sympathy than anything. And I think that's something that should have been like, as well as they handled the Brody Lee passing in the beginning, I feel like they mishandled the Jon Moxley situation, because Jon Moxley should have been entitled to his privacy. Hey, he's taking a couple months off. Cool. He's been through a lot. Let's see him when he comes back. Instead, it's like Jon Moxley has a serious issue. He has to go back to rehab. He has to do this. He has to do that. That puts John on the spot. That puts his wife on the spot to have to answer questions. And it never needed to be publicized like that. That could have been like anything. It could have even been a press release if you really wanted to say it. I've seen Tony Khan grow this year from a nice guy into almost, and we'll talk about this coming up, almost like an Eric Bischoff type character. I feel like he has a hard time biting his tongue nowadays. We see the issue now with the black wrestlers. Some are for him, some are against him. The diversity issues, which I have a lot to say about that. Then we go back and you talk about some of the storylines. You talk about some of the feuds. I saw the rise of Jungle Boy. One of the biggest things I saw this year that kind of bothered me was a lot of the new people come in, and then the people that have been carrying the company, and I'm not talking about the Britt Bakers and the Darbys and the MJFs, the pillars. I'm talking about, a lot of the people that you see on Dark and Elevation that were getting time on the main show. Now you only see on the YouTube shows. You don't even see them on Rampage. They really just use Rampage for like 6-man, 8-man tags, stuff like that. A couple marquee matches. They made the transition at the end of the year. They're now moving Dynamite over to TBS. Rampage is staying on TNT because obviously they have that big hockey contract that kind of interferes with their shows on Wednesdays on TNT. So that is what AEW's done this year. And the pay-per-view numbers have been huge. Their growth has been huge despite COVID. They went back on the tour. They finished the year at Daly's Place, kind of like nostalgic reasons. I think COVID might have had a lot to do with that as well, even though they didn't say it. But I think they handled it well. I thought I saw Britt Baker go from an average wrestler to a superstar as far as their company goes. I've seen debuts of CM Punk, which inspired a whole generation to come back to wrestling. You can argue whether his debuts were successful or been kind of lame. I don't really know what I expected from CM Punk when he came back. I didn't expect him to go challenge Kenny Omega and everything else from the beginning because I don't really feel like, I don't know how to say it. I don't think his heart is in it to be number one anymore. I think he's just doing it to have fun. And I think that upset a lot of fans, but he's also had good feuds. He had the match with Eddie Kingston. He had the matches with Darby and Danny Garcia, and he did the things with MJF right now that people are really excited about.
Like
so
a
maybe
teaser, yeah.
Yeah, maybe it will build to him, especially him and Bryan Danielson. They've always wanted to feud in WWE. It never happened because one was coming in, one was going out. It just didn't work out timing wise. The couple years they shared, and then here you go. They're back in the same promotion. Hopefully that'll be something we can see down the road. Now you were about go ahead.
I kind of like the little happy accident too with Dante, because him and his brother were a tag team. His brother got hurt.
And Dante Martin became a big star this year.
And then he became a big story, and they've been using him predominantly on Rampage and even Dynamite at times. And I know his brother's coming back, but it was kind of cool to see him getting used and then him just growing and becoming a fan favorite.
Yeah, and that'll take me into Ricky Starks and a whole nother conversation we'll have for the future of AEW. Obviously, Ricky had the injury, and then he was cleared, but they just barely have used him throughout the year. I've heard a couple interviews with him. He's 100% healthy. They've been using him in so many other roles, especially the commentary and other things. He's really good on the mic. That's why so many people compare him to The Rock, because he just has that versatility, charisma, and ability to go when he does get in the ring. So be exciting to see what happens with that. Whole Brian Cage situation is kind of weird right now. Is he hurt? Is he not hurt? Is he not being used right? There's a whole situation with a bunch of wrestlers who may not be used right. But let's now shift gears. You're about to go over to WWE. Tell me about some of your highlights of WWE this last year.
Of course, we have to mention Brock Lesnar coming back at SummerSlam, and kind of the start of a feud storyline with him and Roman Reigns that has culminated over into 2022 now.
And of course, Roman's just dominated the year.
He's dominated the year with the heel turn that he did at basically the end of 2020, going into 21. That's when he started it. He's basically been unscathed, minus like one or two matches in tag or 6-man action. I like that. You've had all the
or the botch with Kevin Owens.
The botch with Kevin Owens, and even the weird ending against Finn Balor, where the rope just falls off and costs Finn Balor the match, basically.
Yeah.
But you've seen him kind of cut back a little bit on pay-per-views as well. There's not like 2 pay-per-views a month now. It's like they're kind of like lessening it up, and then they took away a couple of the niche pay-per-views, which I was happy about.
Tightening up the budget, yeah.
And of course, just like we said before, they released over 70 wrestlers in the past year. We kind of knew it was coming because
that's not even just wrestlers. That if you count like producers, creative talent, writers, I think overall, I heard the number was like somewhere over 80 or 90 people that were released this year.
And then, of course, the gun out of NXT 1.0 and then turning it into 2.0 because Vince decided he wants to turn it into like a developmental kind of again, where he wants to
rewind a little bit,
do like basically a reset and bring in all these athletes. He just brought in 18 to 20 athletes from sports that he wants to kind of mold from the bottom up instead of bringing indie wrestlers in. And he's done it on 2.0 now, so that when he calls people up, that they're ready with a gimmick and whatnot, all from the start. Because I guess like the whole battle between AEW and NXT didn't go their way, and then this is his way of correcting things. But I'm not sure what to get to how to rank WWE in just 2021 as a whole, because there's so many unknowns. They did some really good, like with the storyline. I think NXT 2.0 is going to be good. We just have to give it a while, because some of these wrestlers just started like a couple months ago, and they're being featured a lot. But then, like, I still want to see. One thing I wasn't too happy about was some of the wrestlers they have right now not getting used, and the downplay of the IC and the US title continuing, because they're not utilizing them like they once did.
Damian Priest has been like carrying the United States title Obviously, he had the match with Dolph last night. It's so my thing about WWE this year, I think COVID wrecked them, obviously, like you said, way more than it did AEW. They made it very public when they had issues with COVID going throughout the year. They had a huge WrestleMania, a 2-night spectacle here in Tampa. We saw the rise of Bianca Belair in the women's division, only to kind of get her put like on the back pedal as soon as Becky Lynch came back. We've seen Sasha kind of in and out. We've seen the drama with Charlotte kind of being a diva in front of the screen and behind the scenes. The real life kind of battle she had with Nia in the middle of the ring that we all saw. They kind of turned into a storyline, but it was still kind of messy because that's kind of the way like Vince is like, all right, y'all want to scrap? All right, let's get paid for it. Go do it in front of the camera. You had that. Then you had in the men's side, then you also had the whole rise of the Fiend. They spent a lot of money putting time and energy in the Fiend. They lit him on fire. They brought him back. Then they released him. They built Alexa up as like a sidekick, and then she got her own storyline. And then she kind of got repackaged. She's getting repackaged and getting ready to come back as what we really don't know. She's kind of like teased both.
Yeah, they're supposed to start that this Monday now. They had like a small 10-second thing. Yeah,
but you don't really know. Like they showed like her the way she ended, and a lot of speculated that she's going back to her old gimmick as the goddess, but we don't really know because even on social media, she's kind of showed both. And it's kind of cool because we really don't know. I wish they hadn't even teased it. I wish she would have just showed up. Yeah. I get the whole television point of networks want you to tease everything or announce everything because they want people to tune in. But wrestling's always been built on the surprises. Like we thought CM Punk was coming, but we didn't know. We thought Adam Cole was coming over. We didn't know. We thought Bryan Danielson was supposed to actually debut at Grand Slam. And then he debuted like a couple weeks earlier at All Out. So there's certain things we didn't know. Ruby Soho. Honestly, I thought Ruby was getting ready to go to Impact. And she shows up as, the Joker in the Casino Battle Royale. But WWE this year has had huge moments. Like I said, WrestleMania has been huge. I love how he keeps trying to creep on the WrestleMania was huge. And then that kind of kicked off the touring, kind of kicked them going back on the road. You saw Drew McIntyre with a huge push. You finally saw Bobby Lashley with an epic push, which we finally now going into 22 we'll talk about coming up with his match with Brock Lesnar coming up finally that we've been looking for years. We're finally going to get because of COVID. It ended up speeding that process up. For whatever reason, WWE has always wanted to keep them apart. But I kind of do understand because you got two big giant bulls, and you're like, well, when you have that battle, then there's no more hype because it's going to be a winner or loser or a draw or whatever they do to drag it out. But it kind of reminds me back in the day when Goldberg and Brock Lesnar met up, and it obviously didn't achieve the hype because they were both walking out the door pretty much right after that WrestleMania. So there wasn't the hype. People were pretty much booing both of them. You had Goldberg back again and again this year, which is, a lot of people have been like, why? Stop it. Edge came back, which was huge.
Yeah, he had some good storylines that I liked.
Randy Orton and Riddle, not only did they have a good story, they got, back and forth. It's just one thing I think WWE has always done better than AEW is their storylines. The problem is they're just not always consistent with them. They'll drop them at a moment's notice. They'll change stuff. You talked about NXT's changeover. One thing I will say is NXT kind of got away from their roots. They were supposed to be a developmental. But that's going to be a Triple H versus Vince McMahon thing going back in the past and going forward. Triple H was all about bringing in the Kevin Owens, a.k.a. Kevin Stevens, the Sammys, the Johnny Garganos, Thomas Ciampa, all these guys that independent success, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, all these guys that had success, whether it was Ring of Honor or independent, he brought on because he wanted to push NXT as a third brand.
That's kind of where I disagree because I feel like he was developing superstars. They had gimmicks. It's just that Vince McMahon didn't like them, and it's like
they weren't cartoonish enough for him.
Yeah, they were over. The fans liked them. They could bring them up and use them.
What they did with Karrion Kross.
Yeah, but I feel like he just ruined half of them, and he wants to. he wants his hands in everything, and because they're already up, and then he wants to change things with them so he can say that he had his hand in making this person or that person, and when he doesn't, he messes with them. Like you said, Keith Lee, Karrion Kross, even Damian Priest to an extent right now. He wants to have his say, and then
I think Damian Priest is probably the one exception because he got lucky. He came up. He had the thing with Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
That really got him over. What he's doing right now doesn't interest me at all. What he was doing at the end of his NXT run, even with the North American title, it wasn't that interesting if Johnny Gargano wasn't in the picture. When he was feuding with other people, it just wasn't like the whole Velveteen Dream, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It just didn't really do it for me. When he came up and he got in that thing with Bad Bunny, then that got casual fans involved, right? Because Bad Bunny took it seriously. He didn't just come up as like a celebrity wrestler who does a spot. He trained hard. He had time off between his music tours. He put in the work. And then you had the crossover effect, right? The Latin Grammys and everything else. My wife, who's not a wrestling fan, I mean, she'll watch it casually, but she's not a real wrestling fan. She's Latina. She's Peruvian. She saw Bad Bunny. She was watching. So it draw eyes. That's one thing WWE always does a little better. Like AEW brought in Shaq, and they brought in some people that you might know. They did Snoop. He did the whole top rope spot, and that was cool. But they haven't really like attached themselves to the pop culture today. Like today's pop culture. They're kind of bringing in older people that
they're getting ready to bring in Johnny Knoxville now.
Yeah,
well, that
WWE's bringing Knoxville. He's always had a relationship with him.
Yeah,
that Jackass thing is going back a ways, so that's not new. But I do say WWE does a better job of connecting with some of the youth, especially they had Migos just like last week. You know what I'm saying? Like they do a better job with some of their celebrity appearances.
I think that's a good and a bad because I feel like they've been around long enough to be able to do that. Whereas AEW has only been around 2 years, 2-3 years, give or take.
But I think AEW does I think they cling to nostalgia a little bit more than they should.
I think that's what makes it better is that they're bringing we're just going to put the focus in the ring because what it is, it's wrestling. It's not like that's part of why I get tuned out of WWE at times. It's because Vince is like, okay, this is entertainment. Yes, it's entertainment, but it's also wrestling. You're taking a lot of time out of the actual ring itself, and then the matches itself. You get a 3-hour Raw, and maybe you only have 4 or 5 matches because half of the night is stationed on promos, on videos, vignettes, and everything else, and commercials. Whereas AEW is only 2 hours, but they can fit 5 or 6 matches in because they put the focus in their arena where they're wrestling. Everything's done in there. They might have 1 or 2 2-minute things in the back, but the main focus is right there where you want it. AEW, they know they're trying to cater to the older crowd, kind of like a mixture of like WCW and NWA, where you want
trying to appeal more to the diehards.
Yeah. Whereas WWE, it's all masses. It's the kids, it's the adults, it's older
PG,
older people, and I get it, but like for a person like me, I'm tuned in to watch the matches. I'm not tuned in to watch everything go everywhere. Like to me, WWE a few years ago was great. Like they're showing a little bit of everything, but now I feel like it's a cluttered mess now.
So I agree with you, and let's talk about going into 2022. Right, we recapped 21 a little bit. We'll spend the next few minutes looking at our predictions of 22 now and kind of finish the show up. But let's transition now. So 2022 is here. We just had day one. It's always going to be the debate of sports entertainment versus wrestling, right? Like what you just said. WWE does a great job with storylines. It's more than just the matches. It's the entirety of everything that kind of plays into like this soap opera of what professional wrestling is. AEW tries to appeal to the fans that are more into the action. They don't care what happens behind the scenes, which is kind of crazy because like every major wrestler in AEW has a vlog and a video YouTube series in their catalog and everything. like Sammy, Ethan Page, even Cody's in on some. You know what I'm saying? They all have the click. I'm sorry,
Evil
the elite,
Uno.
Evil
Evil
Uno, the
Uno.
elite. Like all of them have like their own little like stories going way off camera, right? If you pay attention to social media and YouTube and everything else. However, the product, Tony Khan has always said he tries to focus in the arena, in the ring. That's his thing. I think the problem right now AEW has, if I'm playing devil's advocate, is two things. One, Tony Khan is becoming way too much Eric Bischoff. And by what I mean by that is he's gotten kind of edgier, right? So we know the whole thing that just happened with Big Swole. Her contract expired. We knew she was leaving for a while. She wasn't used. Tony wasn't a fan of her wrestling. He wasn't a fan of her look and her gimmick and everything. And she made noise in the background, right? She was always disgruntled. We heard rumors for basically the last year about how she wanted out. They let her contract expire. She got paid. She walked around. Now, for her part, she said the whole diversity is more than just a black-white issue. A lot of wrestlers have gotten involved and made it a black-white issue. I have a big thing with diversity.
Well, from what I read, she said it was a diversity issue. That's what she said.
She said diversity was part of the problem. She later went back and clarified all that, and then even dropped a podcast talking about the entire thing.
I think she did that to do damage control. I think that's what she did.
Maybe.
I don't think she think that people would have his back. Well, way after she said it, a whole bunch of wrestlers, even today, Hobbs came out and was like...
Well, Hobbs said that a few days ago, and obviously Jade Cargill came out and said something to defend him. But there was a lot of people, Leo Rush, who obviously had to sit down with Tony and kind of hash things out. There was another smaller wrestler who's on Dark and Elevation stuff that had a lot to say. I can't remember his name offhand. I'm sorry. Not trying to be insulting. A lot of black wrestlers came out and said something. My problem with diversity is everybody wants to look at things as a black-white issue. And in America, that's the standard as old as time. From racism has been rampant in America from the get-go, right? From the days of slavery till the Black Lives Matter movement to whatever going on today, it's always going to be kind of encoded into what is America. So that's always a hot topic. It's always going to set the world on fire, so to speak, anytime it comes up. But AEW is run by two people that, as Tony Khan said, are brown. They also happen to be Jaguar executives, himself and the lady, I forget her name right now.
Mega. Yeah.
I don't think I can even pronounce it, to be honest with you. And I'm not trying to be insulting. Honestly, I heard it once and I just didn't remember it offhand because she kind of stays behind the scenes. She does a lot of like the financial stuff and other things. Yeah. But those are the two top executives. They're brown. As somebody who's married into a Latino family, Hispanic family, there are more shades than black and white. We've seen them get a lot of love to Asians. You've seen Hikaru Shida, Rio have a nice run. A lot of the Hispanic wrestlers like the Lucha Brothers, just to name right off the top of my head, Santana and Ortiz have had runs at the top. You've seen Scorpio Sky with a title, and it's kind of been like, I mean, he's kind of been forgotten since, but you've seen Hobbs and Cargill. You've seen Red Velvet. Like you obviously, Brandy Rhodes is very involved as a chief brand officer, and she's African American. You see this trend of not just black, but it's white, black, Asian, Hispanic, Arab. Like you see a lot of diversity in AEW. If you look at the top, obviously Hangman is white. Kenny Omega, he's like Canadian white, but he's still white. A lot of Canadians tend to have a darker complexion to kind of make them look more ethnic, but they're still white. I know a few friends up there, especially in that Winnipeg area, that kind of, I'm like, wait, are you white or are you mixed with something? But they're really just white. It's just kind of the complexion. Not to get off topic, I know people want to tune into wrestling, but my point about the whole diversity thing is people got mad when he said she just couldn't wrestle. And I don't think that was a bad thing, but I think Tony Khan has a hard time shutting up. Like a year ago, he would have just said nice things. I wish her well, not said anything. A year later, anytime somebody lights a fire under him,
I think
he goes back and forth.
He gives him his honest opinion too much. Like instead of just
too much,
kind of not sweeping it under a rug type situation. I think he should just kind of say a little bit, but not say everything. Just say we just let her contract expire, and now she's doing her own thing. But he went.
Like you never hear WWE say anything when somebody goes. They're like, we wish them well in their future endeavors.
Yeah, well, they also have different channels. They go through the back channels and do all that stuff, and then you still hear about the ramifications of it anyway. But yeah,
I mean they're a globally traded company on the stock market. Things are going to come out.
Yeah,
AEW is a private company. They have the ability to keep things under wraps, and like they do with COVID. Like you said, you don't hear about COVID cases with AEW. But you know what? You hear about Tony Khan cannot shut up. And I think that could be engaging. Like, remember when Eric Bischoff challenged Vince McMahon to a fight, right?
Yeah.
When AEW and SmackDown went head-to-head, Tony went every which way to say AEW won that battle or was going to win that battle before it happened. There were about 20 demographics. Here's this is going to set the internet wrestling community on fire right now, Dan. There were about 20 different demographics. AEW won 1/4 of one of the 20 and went out and started saying they won the battle head to head. Literally from like 18 to 24 for people that stayed up past their bedtime, that happened to be male, that didn't go to the bathroom break. They won that demographic. Like that's how small it was.
Well, in defense, WWE is the one that started that Friday night thing by adding the 30 minutes on. So
yeah, but they didn't do it because of
they didn't know that there's no way around it.
Rampage. No, they did it because they were moved to FX.
No,
they were off Fox that night.
Yeah, they did it because it was Rampage. There's no getting around it. Come on now.
I don't agree with you. They did
know.
It. First of all, Vince McMahon does not consider AEW competition.
He doesn't have to say it, but he knows it.
No, I don't think he does. I don't think he cares.
There's a reason why they rebranded NXT, and it's
not they rebranded NXT because Triple H had the heart problems. He was out of the picture. It was driving Vince crazy that all these indie wrestlers were getting love, and that's from day one of NXT. NXT day one would not sign indie wrestlers. If you remember the very much beginning of NXT, it was a lot of global talents, a lot of up and coming indie wrestlers that you had never heard of. Like Seth Rollins was still Tyler Black. He had a little bit of shine in Ring of Honor, but you didn't know who he was.
He was a big time name in Ring of Honor. There's a lot of guys in the beginning that they were either from FCW, where they did get an extensive wrestling from there, and then on indie scenes.
And before that, Ohio Valley Wrestling.
Ohio Valley Wrestling. And then as they moved on, they still did the same thing. They still plucked from Ring of Honor. They started to pluck from England a little bit. They started to pluck from here and there.
But what they did was they changed their gimmicks. What they couldn't do with some of these indie stars, because they've gotten so big nowadays, is they couldn't change their gimmicks. They changed Kevin Steen to Kevin Owens. That's about as much as they did. They changed Finn Balor from Prince Devitt. That was a big deal. But Samoa Joe was still Samoa Joe.
Yeah, well, it's still sort of his same gimmick because they still did the demon thing. It's just that they did it every pay-per-view.
Sami Zayn, they just took him out of the mask for El Generico.
Yeah.
But Johnny Gargano and Thomas Ciampa are still their same people. Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, Roderick Strong. All these guys brought their gimmicks over. And you know what? Vince doesn't own those gimmicks. And that's been a big thing for him. You were talking about how WWE likes to change people. Keith Lee's another one. They like to have gimmicks they can own. They can monopolize, and they can make money off even after the people are gone. They're still selling Fiend merchandise on WWE Shop.
Yeah.
And they're going to continue to. Even if he goes become Wyndham on any other brand, they still can sell the Fiend. They can still sell Bray Wyatt. Braun Strowman, they can still sell Braun Strowman. You know why? Because his real name is Adam Scherr. His real name, he goes by the Titan now. They can still sell the gimmick. And that's why Vince does it, because he owns the gimmick. And we hate when they change a lot of these gimmicks, but that's what it's all about. This whole developmental thing, I think, was just a way for Vince to kind of be like, I'm still in control. I'm not dead yet type shit. especially with Triple H out of the picture.
Yeah.
And he knew Shawn wasn't going to push back.
And I think that's part of the problem there. I think that's why it's hurting the product right now. And I feel like he's not putting. Another thing is they're not putting the whole focus on just the wrestling WWE. They're putting their focus on wrestling, movies, TV shows.
They've always done that.
Not true. Not true. About 10 years ago, they weren't. It was just maybe movies, but then they were doing the wrestling was the big priority. They dabbled in movies. Now it's like WWE. The wrestling
because as far back as Hulk Hogan doing the nanny movies and The Rock doing the Rundown and Tooth Fairy and everything else.
That's movies. That's here and there.
The Miz,
John
Cena.
He might miss a month or two, but then he comes back. But now it's like flare on, like you got people doing a bunch of stuff on the side all the time. It's taken away from the product. And now I feel like wrestling is on the back burner. You're a wrestling company, and the wrestling is
any different than Jericho taking a month off to tour with Fozzy.
Well, he doesn't take a month off.
He just did.
Well, he also took off because he finished a storyline. He didn't do it mid-storyline.
He finished the storyline because
what everybody doesn't know is he's been on tour for the past 6 months. He just does it around Dynamite, and he still goes to Dynamite. He still does Rampage every Friday where he does commentary. Like some people take time off. Look, Drew McIntyre just took a month off. He just took a month off.
They wrote him out. They wrote him out of storylines because he got hurt.
Yeah, and they did the same thing. Jericho just came back. They wrote him out on a storyline by him getting attacked, and he just came back.
So we got kind of sidetracked. Let's focus this back. Let's take the last couple minutes of the show. I don't want to run too long. Let's look forward to 2022. What do you expect out of AEW? What do you expect out of WWE? And at the end of the year, where do you see both companies as far as being head-to-head?
With WWE, I expect them to milk out the Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns storyline because it's hot right now. That's probably the biggest storyline out there. I think if there was one thing that happened that really benefited them, it's putting the belt on Brock Lesnar. I know that was a move that was kind of like it's being talked about a lot.
Crapped all over the New Day again. Same thing when he did with Kofi.
Yeah, which I think they'll wind up being a blessing in disguise for Big E at the end.
Heyman went out of his way to kind of pump Big E back up because the bigger picture, but at the same time, I see why the community would be upset because the same thing that happened with Kofi.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be a thing that would be huge if, say, they unify the titles at Mania. If that's
I don't think that'll happen.
It might not, but I think they both will be champions going into Mania, and they
not
both
with the contracts between Fox and USA. I don't see that.
I could see it very well. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But it would be a big thing if they did.
We don't always agree. Go ahead.
But there's that. I think with WWE, I hope to see them add some prestige back to the IC title. That's the one big thing I hope they do because they don't do anything with it. I feel like they're supposed to do a thing at day one with the title. They didn't really do it. And they made like a whole battle royal. A whole gauntlet match.
Well, Sami Zayn was the number one contender, right? Because he won another battle royal.
They did that whole
battle royal.
They did the whole battle royal, whatever you want to call it. He wins it, gets a title shot day one. You didn't see any of that on TV unless they did it on the pre-show.
Well, also, COVID. A lot of the WWE crew has COVID right now.
I hope they don't get into the thing because they did put it out that Vince isn't gonna test them anymore. I think that's a bad thing. I don't want to go into that too much, but that's
a whole nother subject.
Yeah, I hope
that's next episode on Slamtown. No, I'm just kidding.
I hope this is going to happen. I feel like 2022 is going to be a big year for Xavier Woods. I do like how they started to build him a little bit. They gave him.
I haven't seen him in a few weeks.
He just wrestled on day one, which was good. But I hope they keep on that because the King of the Ring, do the King gimmick. I kind of like the King gimmick. I just hope that they don't overdo it like they always do, where it carries around with them for like a year. But I like how they put a little
Like how
spin
Baron
on
Corbin did it.
Yeah, I like how they put the spin on it. So I hope they build them up, and maybe they bring the prestige back with it by putting the belt on Xavier Woods. I want to. I could see them like Rory
I can see
Brosnan
an
up.
IC title, but I can't see him being world champ.
No, I'm the same way. I could see him definitely doing IC.
How about AEW?
AEW continue to just with the storylines. One of the things that I hope they do with it is because they have so many wrestlers. I hope they do what kind of like Nitro did, where you don't have to use everybody every week. You use a certain crop of people this week. Next week, use a whole different crop of people, and you kind of keep on doing that. Maybe you do like this is Group A, this is Group B, and you kind of just kind of all together build up wrestlers each week where you don't have to use them every week. That way, each city gets to see a different group of people instead of the same group. I know people want to see who they paid for, but if you build up the whole roster itself, the brand itself is going to be what you go to see, not just this person, this person, this person. I feel like they'll do that in time. I don't think it'll happen right away. But I do like what they're doing with the Undisputed Era and the Elite. That's the thing I'm looking into.
At the end of the year, where do you see these two companies head to head?
I think AEW is going to be ahead in the wrestling. I know at the end of the day, as like a brand, WWE is bigger than life right now because they have that. But I feel like they're not putting the emphasis on wrestling, whereas AEW is. And I feel like AEW is going to continue to grow. They'll make mistakes. Don't get me wrong. They're going to make mistakes, but I think they're going to correct mistakes or learn from them. And I think they're the better brand right now.
So I agree with a lot of what you said. One thing I am upset about is we're finally getting Lesnar versus Lashley. And instead of hyping that up, Lesnar's like, do you have a comment? And he's like, yeah, tell Roman I'll see him on Friday. Like, they're totally glossing over the fact that we're finally getting Lesnar versus Lashley because Lesnar's not focused on Bobby Lashley. And we have these two titans getting ready to clash. And it's something the fans at home have been wanting for so long. And for whatever reason, WWE has just never wanted it. And Brock and him have never even, like even Paul Heyman said, they've never even said hello to each other. They've never been in the same arena at the same time. They've never been anywhere near each other. And here they are. And they're still talking about Roman Reigns. And it shows how big of a star Roman's gotten, that he is the epicenter of everything. It shows one thing I think AEW doesn't have. No matter how much amazing talent AEW has, they don't have Brock Lesnar. And people can say part-time, they can say whatever they want. He's a needle mover. When he's on TV, you're watching. You can't name an AEW star, not Kenny Omega, not Bryan Danielson, not even CM Punk outside of his debut. You can't name an AEW star that when he's on TV, every person, not just wrestling fans, I'm talking about every person's got to be like, oh shit, there's that guy. There's that girl. Brock Lesnar, especially because he has crossover from the UFC, his real life experiences outside of it. He's a real life badass. And then he also has the sports entertainment background. And especially over the last few months, he's actually been really entertaining. The stuff he did with Sami Zayn and everything else. When Brock Lesnar comes out, I still remember a few years back when he came back and against John Cena in Miami, and the whole crowd was going nuts for Lesnar. And John acted like he didn't know he was there. And then he came out that Monday Night Raw and just laid out Cena. You talk about pops. Other than the CM Punk in Chicago pop, you never heard a pop like that in wrestling.
No.
And that's what Brock Lesnar brings every time, whether it's SummerSlam, whether it's Madison Square Garden, wherever he does. Becky Lynch came back. People have been crying for Becky to come back for a long time. And despite what happened with Bianca Belair, she didn't get the pop that Brock Lesnar got that night. Like, he's unique talent. And as long as Vince has Brock Lesnar, as long as he keeps throwing buckets and buckets of money at him, because he doesn't have an Undertaker anymore. Yeah. He doesn't have that one guy that people can focus on. Roman Reigns is really elevated to be the top guy. Him, Kenny Omega, you can go 1-2 no matter what. Kenny's going to be out for a little while, recovering from all these injuries. See how that kind of affects AEW. Their train kind of keeps on moving, so that's good for them. They have so much talent. I wish AEW would do a better job of carrying storylines from Dynamite and Rampage like they do over to Dark and Elevation. Because if they did that, if you had a CM Punk feuding with MJF, and that feud's amazing. I'm excited for that one. I don't like that they brought Sting and Darby into it. I don't like that these other people. Let me get them one-on-one. Let's see what happens with this. But if you had them show up on Elevation to do a segment, all of a sudden you have more people next week or going back on YouTube and watching that episode of Elevation. I don't think they're doing these younger talents any favors by putting them on these shows, because there's no reason to watch those shows. Those shows are great if you're just a pure wrestling fan and you want to see matches, like you said. You want to just see matches and matches and matches. But wrestling has always been more about entertainment. And the matches are great, but if there's not a story to really pull you into that match, it's just two guys or two girls just fighting.
And I think that's them just giving them reps, because I think that's their way of NXT is Dark and Elevation.
It absolutely is, but it's also their way of using all that talent you talked about.
Yeah.
All those different talents they have. They have a huge roster. Tony Khan didn't want to lay anybody off during COVID. Vince over-flooded the market, and I kind of think he did it on purpose, because now all of a sudden Tony Khan has what they call a good problem to have, right? Too much talent. But at the same time, you're going to have a Big Swole getting disgruntled because she was in a big picture with Britt Baker having a feud, and then she's not on TV no more. You're going to have, I'm surprised somebody like Red Velvet isn't upset, because she was kind of in the main picture with Britt and some other people, and now that Ruby Soho's here, they're not talking about her.
Well, she was in the tournament.
Yeah, they're in the tournament. They get a match, but they're still pushing Nyla Rose despite the mixed reaction for her. I know it's kind of like controversy creates cash. So, whether you're pro or anti, whether you just think it doesn't matter, it's controversial to the average fan, and they watch because it's controversial, whether they love or hate her. But other than her, Sheeta was champion for a while. They finally put her in a feud with Serena Deeb. But there was a while she was off TV after she lost the title. They have too much talent, and they don't have a reason. Like I said, if they had a couple main event stars on those shows from time to time to help promote their storylines for the TV shows, they would go bananas. They would be, their ratings, their downloads, their views, their streams, whatever you want to categorize it as, would be crazy. I think at the end of the year, to wrap this up from my perspective, I don't think AEW is still going to be on the global level that WWE is. Nobody will be. They spent years building this global conglomerate, this corporate entity. Nick Khan is kind of like right now Vince's right-hand man, and he wants to make cuts. He makes cuts. I didn't know Nick Khan grew up with The Rock in Hawaii. I didn't know his sister produced some of The Rock's movies and Young Rock, the television show. So there's a lot more going into that. There's also the storyline that maybe The Rock is going to be the one to buy WWE eventually. There's that. We're still waiting for The Rock to show back up. There's still talk about him at WrestleMania with Roman. Maybe it will be, maybe it won't be. They haven't done it yet, so I don't think it's going to happen at this point, because they're kind of starting that push to promote WrestleMania. I don't like they're overshadowing Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. It's kind of like second fiddle because of COVID and what happened with Roman, that we just lucked out and got this match. Like Vince threw us a bone. AEW, for their part, I'm not a huge fan as Adam Page as champion. I don't think he has the charisma on the mic to kind of carry a segment. I think Bryan Danielson has been carrying a lot of those segments. In the ring, I think he's great. But you said this when we talked about what makes the best wrestler in the world. Mic skills was a big deal. That was your words. And
I think he's improved though.
He's improving, but he's not there.
But that's what you want to see. You know, it's not a thing that's made overnight. You want to see improvements in certain areas.
I mean, Eddie Kingston is not that great in the ring, but he's money on the mic. Guess what? I don't want to see Eddie Kingston as a champion either. You need to have both. And I think when Jon Moxley comes back, that's going to mix things up a lot more. I wasn't really into the whole Wild thing. I hope they bring back Jon Moxley more as just like his insane kind of like hardcore. I'd love to see him and Kenny Omega kind of reignite their feuds when they come back. As far as head-to-head, I think AEW is going to do some fantastic things this year. I think you're going to see a lot more debuts. I wouldn't be surprised to see Titan, a.k.a. Braun Strowman. I wouldn't be surprised to see Wyndham, a.k.a. Bray Wyatt, down the road. But I don't think they're going to happen anytime before the summer. I think both of them have enough stuff going on the side to keep them entertained. I think as far as debuts, I think if that's what AEW is holding their hat on, these debuts here and there, they're going to run out of people. Like, they're going to run out of these pops. They have these great matches, but you need people to come in the door to watch something. And the diehard fans, as much as they watch week to week, they don't really move the ratings needle because they're really a small part of the audience. The whole Attitude Era, the reason why people still cling to that, the whole ratings war of WCW versus WWE was because they brought in the casual fan. And for once, talking about wrestling outside of a room with your friends, being in a crowded bar or being in high school or being in college, wherever you were, became cool again. That's not cool right now. You go to a bar and say, hey, did you see what happened on AEW last night? They're going to be like, what? Right? Am I wrong?
You're right, but then at the same time, they're not going to be the same way as WWE too.
Yeah, they're the same way. And I think the only difference is that WWE has enough built-up history that just like WCW, you're not going to push them out of business. And they have the big deal with Universal, which is bigger than the TNT deal. And I think being moved to TBS is going to hurt Dynamite. I think it's going to hurt Dynamite. I don't think people watch TBS, and I don't think it's going to get the ratings they think it will. It'll be the number one rated show on that network, but what does that say? I'll give you the last word on this, and we'll get out of here.
I feel I to an extent agree with you, but then if you're tuning in to watch wrestling, that's what you're watching. And I feel like right now the number one wrestling product right now is AEW, because I don't think WWE knows what their product is at this moment, because they just get rid of a bunch of people. They have great storylines, but then they have shit storylines because they have too much pay-per-views. I think AEW has the right formula for the long haul, which is
I do like their pay-per-view formula.
It's the quarterly pay-per-views, but then they do have these
TV specials like
little Mania, the Super Show,
Grand Slam,
in between it, so it gives them just enough cushion and allows them to actually build story.
They kind of stole that from Impact a little bit, because Impact lost their money for pay-per-views, so they started doing these weekly like Bound for Glory and other stuff. They split between 2 episodes or whatever of Impact because they didn't have the money to do pay-per-view anymore. So they kind of did that, and AEW was like, oh, well, we could do these specials, and that'd be pretty cool. And they've done it. And WWE's actually done a couple of them too, but just not to the extent. I'm sorry, go ahead, finish your thought.
But I feel like that's enough to let the storylines go, where you're not going to get enough out of storylines if you have a pay-per-view every 3 weeks, like usually WWE does, which WWE is trying to correct a little bit, but I think they're still going to keep that one a month, and then have those ones over in Saudi Arabia, which they either hit or they don't hit. It's been mixed reactions.
It doesn't matter if they hit with the American audience. It matters that they get paid from the royal family.
Yeah, that's what matters to them.
It's a payday for them.
Yeah, it's payday for them. But I think WWE is the money. I think AEW, it's great the money, but I think it's for the fans, and that's what you want. You want it to give back to the fans, because they're the ones helping you out with it by watching. And I always get the edge to AEW unless they make some catastrophic mistake, which I haven't seen yet. I've seen small.
I think going to TBS, I think, is going to be a big one. Whether they,
I don't think
they didn't have a choice, but
because you look at WWE, they SmackDown moved so many times, but they weren't. They were on these no-name networks. At least TBS has a brand.
You mark my words. Rampage will go to 2 hours because they're going to want to get that TNT audience back.
It could go 2 hours, but I think they have the super shows that are still going to be on TNT every quarterly, so they're still going to get some of that back. I feel like people will tune into TBS because it's part of the Turner Network.
The diehards will, but I couldn't even tell you what channel TBS is on my cable right now.
I couldn't even tell you which one either is on.
Like I know because TNT and USA are right next to each other on my cable down here in Tampa. It's 32 for USA and 33 for TNT. I think TBS might be 34, 35. I don't know for sure. I don't have a reason to watch TBS. I don't watch syndicated reruns. I don't watch Big Bang Theory and all that other stuff on reruns like that because everything is streaming nowadays on Hulu and Netflix and Amazon Prime and you name it, HBO Max and Disney Plus. And so networks like TBS that were so great at like bringing people in through like Friends and Seinfeld and Big Bang Theory and stuff, I don't think people watch as much because they can get that content on demand. So I think that's a big issue. One last quick, since we're already going an hour anyway, one last quick thought. Will Ring of Honor be back in 2022?
Yes, and I feel like they kind of teased it because they do have all the champions defending the title still on different indie promotions.
And do you think they lost their spot as the number 3 promotion in America or number 4 promotion in America to MLW? Like, not count Impact's probably number 3, but number 4. Like, do you think Ring of Honor lost their spot to MLW?
Yes, and I don't even think MLW is number 4. I think GCW is number 4.
So you think Ring of Honor, even coming back, will be all the way down to number 5?
Yes.
Wow. All right, we're going to wrap up that show. Make sure you guys go over to fightersfirst.shop. Get the Slamtown merch. You see it below. Cop that Dynamite Kid merch as well. Dynamite Kid's always been one of our favorites, along with the British Bulldog and the British Bulldogs in the history. If you're a big wrestling fan, you go back in the day. They revolutionized what tag team wrestling was back in the day. They did it with this hard-nosed style back in England and Japan and Stampede Wrestling, brought it to the WWE/WWF for a few years, and then went their separate ways and lived their own separate careers. Dynamite Kid is probably the most notorious wrestler in the history of wrestling, and that says a lot.
Yeah.
He loved to be hated, and he loved to be that guy. He didn't care who he pissed off, whether it was Jacques Rougeau or British Bulldog. It didn't matter. He did what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it. He lived a tumultuous life. We'll talk about all that. We got an episode coming up on Unfiltered with his daughter, Bronwyn Billington. We'll be recording that soon and getting that on the air. So check out for that. Wrestling fans, we got a lot coming. Make sure you leave a comment. Tell us what else you want us to talk about. Drop a like. Make sure you subscribe. And leave your thoughts. Where will AEW and WWE be at the end of 2022? Let us know. Tell us what some of your highlights were. Let's get in this conversation. Leave a comment. Dan, any final words for the fans at home?
Just support all the wrestling promotions out there. Without them, you won't get to see any of these wrestlers get moved up to the big brands. So just watch all the wrestling promotions around you and follow your wrestlers that you like.
One last thing. Where do you see Keith Lee showing up next?
New Japan.
Good one. Good one. I can see that. All right, fans. This is Slamtown. That's Dan Bakley. I'm Mike Ginn. We're out.